Our next awardee tonight is Patricia Roe, Vice President of Philanthropy for the Strada Education Network and a participant in the Student Support Services Project at Indiana University. Ms. Roe.
Well, I know you're having a good time out there listening to these stories because I'm having a good time up here listening to these stories there. And I tell you, it is such an honor and a privilege to be here this evening. I have the privilege of working for Strada Education Network, formerly known as USA Funds, which many of you may have known that organization for many years. And I tell you, I think I have the best job in the world because I get to give money away. And I can remember several years ago when the president at the time asked me to come back and join the organization. And it was in a role in philanthropy. And prior to that, I was in human resources. And he said, well, Pat, we'd really like you to head up our philanthropy department, create the process that we're going to use, so on and so forth. So my next words or comment to him was, well, how much money am I going to get to give away? So it's been many, many years since I've had the privilege of knowing the Council on Opportunities in Education. One of my board members, Marshall Grigsby, actually introduced me to Arnold Mitchum at the time, who was president of the organization. And Arnold, as you guys all know him in this room, is a remarkable person. And we've had the pleasure of being able to support COE. But as I look back on my story and my personal journey, it's not unlike many stories that you have seen and heard from the students that you support. And first of all, before I go any further, let me recognize each and every one of you in this room for the job that you do, the support that you give to students, but more importantly, because this is a thankless job and you care. So I want you to give yourselves a round of applause. The work that we do is so important. What I know today is that I would not have been able to attend college at all if it had not been for the Groups program, which is a TRIO program that I had the honor and the privilege of going through several years ago. Now, Chris mentioned, what was it, 70, 85? I go back a little further than that. Of course, I don't go back as far as 68, though, either. Oh, well, what can I say? So when I was in high school, actually, I'm going to go back before then because I always knew I wanted to go to college. You know, what I've learned about being in philanthropy and working with students is that if there is a caring adult in a student's life, they have the ability to be able to ground themselves, understand their passion, find their voice, and pursue their dreams. And I'll tell you the person who was instrumental for me in making sure that I had a foundation, and that was my mom. My mom was a single mother raising 5 children. And there were 3 things that I can share with you that she instilled in each and every one of us, even though we all went in some different directions there. All of us did not appreciate education the way we should have, but nonetheless, you know, the first was respect, because she taught me if you don't respect yourself, no one else will respect you either. She also showed me perseverance, because any person, any woman that can raise 5 children, 4 girls and a son, boy, you got to have a lot of perseverance, okay? Absolutely. And as a matter of fact, the son was the neatest one of all of us, okay? Amazing. But the last thing that I can tell you that she really instilled in all of us is that education is your ticket. And without education, you're not going to be able to accomplish the things that you want in life. And I tell you the observation that you go back as you become an adult and you think about the things that were in your home, okay? And my mother was a hoarder of books, okay? Any subject that you could think of, my mother had a book on, because my mother was the do-it, the fixer. My mother got on the roof and fixed the roof. That was the mother I had, okay? She patched it. She looked at the book, went and bought the tar, and, Mama, you're not supposed to do that. Girl, look, it's got to be done, and I'm going to do it, okay? But, you know, my mother is no longer with us. She's been gone now for about 8 years. And I think as I was sharing with Jody yesterday, as we were going through the orientation material, you know, we have all kind of shows on television these days, and I'm so glad you're not producing this hoarder show, okay? Now, my mother wasn't a hoarder. I don't want to suggest that, okay? But what I will tell you is when the siblings got together afterwards to be able to go through the house and to disseminate all the things that were there, I know we probably were able to furnish about 10 homes in Indianapolis. Okay, I thought this woman has more stuff. Are we ever going to get this house cleaned out? But, you know, she was that person who instilled in me that, Pat, for you to really be able to do what you want to do in your life, and you have the ability to do whatever that is, that you have really just got to buckle down and get your education. For me, that wasn't difficult. See, I'm the fourth child, you know, so the first and the last get all the attention. The ones in the middle, we just kind of exist, okay? Wow, you know, so how I was able to do as much as I did is I read all the time. We had all these books in the house. I may as well have read them. So, but I read to escape, because we didn't have the money to travel. We didn't have the money to do a lot of things that a lot of families were able to enjoy. And unfortunately, my mom was a single parent. Even though I knew my dad, he didn't choose to be in my life. And you know what? After a while, I thought, that's your loss, nobody else's, okay? Because I know who I am and I know whose I am. So when I got to high school, I went to Crispus Attucks High School, which at one time was a predominantly black high school. But at the point that I entered Crispus Attucks, it was the first year that it was integrated. Now, what I will tell you is I've grown and I've matured since that first year at Crispus Attucks, okay? Because I think what I had to do is to learn to appreciate all individuals. And what I didn't understand and what I didn't know at that time was the preparation that that experience was going to have for me. Because I am a proud IU graduate, and I know I have some IU alum in the audience here. But I tell you, when I was in high school and knew that I wanted to go to college, that meant I had to seek out the counselor who was doing the work at the school in order to get there. So after my freshman year, I met Mr. Henderson. And Mr. Henderson was a guidance counselor. But you know, back in that time frame, they not only were counselors, but they were teachers. They were everything to you. And I followed this man for 4 years, okay, because I wanted that scholarship so bad. And I'll never forget the day that I received the letter that I would be accepted into IU on the groups program. It was the best day of my life. But I tell you, I remember going around to some of my teachers and telling them the great news. And so on the one hand, they said, oh, great job, Pat, but you know, black folk haven't been accepted on IU's campus in the past. I said, well, we have arrived because I'm going to be there, okay? And that started that journey. So, as we go through our lives and as we start taking these courses, but you have to then back up for a minute and understand the experience of going to IU, okay? Because this was a first. It was the first time that I had been on a majority campus. It was the first time that I had been in a lecture series that had over 200 people. I remember that first class, I looked around, I said, how in the heck are these people going to learn what this instructor is trying to do here? But I got through it. But I'll tell you, my first experience with discrimination on that campus came from an instructor who basically had provided the class with a take-home test. Now, take-home means that you can look in the book, you can work with others, and it just means you need to turn it in. So the dorm that I was in, there were several of us that were in the same class, so we all got together. Now, I graduated at the top of my class at Crispus Attucks, and math was what I thought was going to be my future there. That was until I got in math classes, and I thought, oh, this is just a lot of work in terms of figuring things out. You mean I'm not going to be able to talk to people? That's my greatest fault, talking, okay? So quickly got out of that as my academic pathway, but the point I want to make with this class is that when we get these papers back, this professor had given me an F. I said, an F? I've never had an F before in my life. So I go to the other individuals on my dorm floor, and they're sharing with me that they got A's. I picked up that paper. I did not make a call. I marched right into his office. I said, we got a problem. He looks at me. He says, well, what is it? I said, you gave me an F on this paper. How could I get an F when I helped everybody else to get A's? I said, well, this is what I want you to do. I want you to give me a test right now. And I guarantee you, not only am I going to ace it, but I'm going to be the best student that you had in class because I'm going to work your nerve the entire semester. And I did, but I got an A out of that class too, right? So through perseverance, that situation could have been a major barrier for me, but I used it as the springboard to basically demonstrate that I was not going to let anyone interfere with my getting my degree because I knew that there was something great that God had in store for me to do in my community. So I continued that pathway and graduated from IU Bloomington, very proud graduate of IU Bloomington, and found myself on the doorsteps of, it was USA Group at the time that I joined it. Now, when I came into USA Group, it was a very small company, less than 100 employees. I saw it grow to 5,000 employees. The first job that I had there was basically an account rep. I was sharing with Aaron that I remember the interview and how I got there. There was a friend of mine who was working there. And so when I was interviewed that day, she said, oh, well, we have a secretarial job that's available. Would you like to go in and take the typing test? I looked at her and I said, there's a lot of things you might want me to do, but being a secretary is not one of them, okay? I passed typing with a D and was elated, okay? Keyboarding was not my thing, okay? Definitely not. Well, what job are you here for? I said, an account rep. Oh. So as I continued to talk my way into this job, she picked up the phone, she called the manager, they interviewed me on the spot. I got the job on the spot, okay? Absolutely. So, I continued my career. I stayed in that capacity for about a year. I transitioned to the Human Resources Department. And during that time, I got married, had a couple children, and then in 1998, I got a call at work, and it was to meet my husband at the hospital. And it was at that time that he was taken into surgery immediately, and he was diagnosed with cancer at that time. That was November of 98, and he passed away April of 99. You talking about the hardest experience of my life. There's a lot of things I never wanted to be. A single parent was one of that, but all of a sudden I found myself as a single parent. You know what? That's another thing, another barrier. I could have given up at that time. But, you know, through the grace of God, not only did we get through that, but we continued on to this journey. I'm so pleased and proud that I have 2 children. Now they have children, and they're going to get everything back that they deserve, that they did to me too. Yeah. They couldn't be with me tonight because, well, my daughter, she has 3 children, all of which are in school. My son has 2 children. One is in school, one is 1 year old, and he told me recently he was going to have another child. I thought, bless your hearts. I'm so glad it's you and not me. But anyway, so, you know, I can tell you, through that pathway, I started out my journey in the Human Resources Department, now Talent Management as it's called. I transitioned after the death of my husband into the world of philanthropy. And there's a person in this room that is here tonight with me that I want to thank for not only becoming such a major part of my life, but a major supporter. And he alone is really the reason that I made that transition into philanthropy. And that's Mr. Ed Schmidt, who is also my board chair at present. You see, USA Funds at the time became my family because when you lose your husband, who's your best friend, and then you have to embark on this journey by yourself to raise 2 children. And it wasn't that my family wasn't around me, but you need that support, you need that love to be able to persevere. And Ed brought me into his office and said, Pat, you know, I was working in human resources, and he said, you can continue to do that work. But what I would say to you is that your children need you more than anything right now. Why don't you consider a transition into the philanthropy world? And I think that it'll give you better hours, but more importantly, the time that you need with your family. You know, in our lives, we need people that support us. We need people that are sponsors. We need people that will push us. We need people that will take us to the heights of our achievement just so that we can recognize and realize what it is that we have to offer. So, Ed, I will always be indebted to you. There's another person here in the audience that I've only known for a short time, but I'll tell you, we have come to build a relationship with one another and a trust factor with one another. And I know that he has the best interests of our organization at heart. He has my best interests at heart. And recently, he has assigned me a portfolio that I have the ability to work with minority-serving institutions, with scholarship programs, direct service programs, just so that I can continue this journey in terms of support of students, and students like those that you are also supporting today. Daryl Graham, I thank you, my friend. So as I was trying to get here, I told you about my 2 children. You know, I have a brother and a sister who are residing in Indianapolis. Both of them had other things to do. And so another person who's very dear to me stepped up and said that he would accompany me here this evening, and he has really become an amazing friend in my life. And that's Mr. Adrian Turner, who is my guest here tonight with me. It's just been an amazing supporter for me. Thank you. Thank you. You know, my colleagues did a great job of thanking Maureen, of thanking all of the rest of you as well in terms of just what you have been able to do. I would say this. I have 3 best friends that I think many of you in this room also share as well. And they are God above, who gives me the strength, who is my Father, who allows me to get up every day and to see another day to be able to serve my community. And then there's Jesus Christ, my brother. My brother is awesome. I'm telling you, he pushes me to be the best I can be at all times. And then there's my cousin, the Holy Spirit. Man, he's all around me and in this room and just helping us to achieve the things that we do. So I say to you, I say to all of you, thank you from the depths of my heart for all that you do.